So in this video, I'd like to show you how we might be able to build a frequency distribution. So let's suppose that we have already calculated mean, median, standard deviation, our min, our max value, and we now want to build a frequency distribution. So keep in mind that a frequency distribution will basically build what we call classes. Excel calls them bins. That we're going to put the data into these groupings, right? So when you first learn about frequency distributions in the textbook, you talk about taking the number of classes that you want to create, the number of bins that you want to create, and dividing that into the range, right? So remember, the range is our max value minus our min value. So what I could do is I could build my class width here. Let's say I do this. Let's say number of classes. I want to kind of make that something that I can play around with and change. So let's suppose I want to start with 6 classes. Okay. Let me center these here. Those don't look very pretty, right? So let's say I want to find out my my class width. Okay. So to remember that class width is going to equal our max minus our min, and we're going to divide by our number of classes. So what I'm going to do in this cell is I'm going to define that. I'm going to say equals the max. I'm going to click that cell, and I'm going to hit the subtraction sign on my keyboard, and then I'm going to subtract that number. And I need to put parentheses here because this is all going to be in the numerator. Let me come up here. Parenthesis, and then I'm going to divide by the number of classes. So now when I hit enter, there is going to be my class width. Okay? And let me go ahead and center those. And then, so here's what I'm going to do. So remember that typically when you did your classes, let's say you had a lower limit and then you had an upper limit for your classes, right? And the way the book showed you how to do this was the lower limit of the first class was always your min value. So I'm going to have this cell be equal to my min value. And then the way that the textbook showed you was that to find the next lower limit, you would calculate the next lower limit by taking the first lower limit and adding the width. So what I'm going to do in this cell is I'm going to say it equals my lower limit here, and then I'm going to hit the plus sign and the width, and that's going to give me my next value. Right? Now I could continue doing this. I could say this is equal to the prior value plus the width, okay, and say enter. Right? So if I want 6 classes, right, then I'm going to have to do that 3 more times. So this will equal the prior cell plus the width. Now 2 more times. And let me show you something kind of unique in Excel that I can do. This value here is based on the value above it. This value here is based on the value above it. This value here is based on the value above it. So what will actually happen is if I drag this little corner here, it'll continue that pattern, and it'll take the value above and add the width. Now, here's an issue that we're going to talk about in Excel. So when this cell, I said it equals the cell above plus the width. This width is C10. Now this is relational. So here's what it's really doing. It's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down and 1, 2, 3, 4 over. So when I took this cell and I dragged, it looked 6 down and 4 over, and that cell is blank. So it's adding 0, and that's why we're getting this repetition. So I want this first number here to be relational. I always want it to be the number above. But this cell I want always to be fixed at C10. So here's how I can do that. What I'm going to do with this cell is I'm going to actually put a $sign before the C and a $sign before the 10. And when I hit enter, now what's going to happen is this is relational. It's always the one above, and this is always fixated on C10. Now the advantage to that is now when I drag, watch, it's going to fix my issue. Now it actually added the width every single time. Okay? Now I want to be careful. Look over here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let me delete that one. Okay. All right. Now, so I'm going to repeat the same kind of thing over here, and I'm going to find the upper limit. Okay. So the upper limit of the first cell is, the first class or bin is technically this one, minus 1. So I'm going to say this equals this cell minus 1, and there's that value. And then I'm going to do the same game as I did earlier. This one I want to be the cell above plus the width. So I'm going to do equals. I'm going to click the cell above and then plus, and I'm going to do $C, $10, and it'll fixate only on that width. You can see it's highlighting it for me there. Now I can drag and drop. I can just click the corner, pull down, and let go, and it'll complete all of those for me. So there's my lower and upper limit for my 6 classes. Alright, now let's suppose we want to find the frequency. Alright, so I'm going to find the frequency of the data in each of those classes. And there's a couple different ways to do this. Alright, so one way to do this is to use what is called the frequency built into Excel. So I'm going to type in the cell equals, and I'm going to type frequency. Let me double click. So the first thing it wants is it's the data array. So I'm going to come over here and highlight all of that data. And then notice it wants a comma. And then it wants to know what the upper limit basically is. So I'm going to click on this cell here and hit enter, and it's telling me that basically for this upper limit there are 2 data values below that value. So first of all, let me go ahead and I want to double check the work here and just show you what's happening. So let me highlight this data here and let me sort it. Alright, I believe I can go to the data tab here and I can sort from lowest to highest. Right, so I just want to double check what's happening. So up to 5836 I should have 2 data values, and I do. It's working so far. Alright. Now, if I do what we did over here with the class limits, if I drag this down, remember in my formula I'm looking here and I'm looking just to the left. Now watch what's going to happen. When I come down here, right, let me double click real quick this cell and look at what it's showing me. What it's looking at, it's looking just to the left, which is what I wanted, but notice how this slid down one. Right? Remember, everything's relational. So what I would want to do is fix this by either dragging and pulling that box back up, right? Or more importantly, I think what I'd rather do is come up here and we can put the $signs in front of the letter and the number, because I don't want these to slide as I drag and fill in the boxes. However, I don't want this to be fixated because I want this always to look just to the left of the frequency. I want this to be my upper bound. Okay, so there's 2 values up to the point of 10,089. And again, because I ranked these, I can see that's true, right? So let me go ahead and drag this open a little bit further, and now it's counting 7. Now, let me point out to you what's happening. So between 10,000 and 14,000, how many do I really have? Well, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I really have 5. So here's the issue with the frequency feature. What's happening is it's cumulative. It's going from 0 up to this number here, this max value. So a couple ways to fix that, alright? So one way for me to fix that is to say that what I really want to do is take this and subtract the number before it, right? So I could do that pretty easily. Here I could come up here and say I'm going to subtract, and I'm going to click the number before it and hit enter. Right? So there's the 5 that we counted. Now, more importantly, what's really happening is I'm really subtracting up to this value here. Right? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come back here and change this feature, and I'm going to subtract the frequency of all of those data values here up to the number just above right before the cell. Okay? And of course there's the same 5. Now the advantage to doing that is now when I drag, it will always look, so this is looking to this frequency and subtracting that cumulative out. Right? This is looking to this frequency and subtracting that cumulative out. So let's just double check and make sure this is working right. So 14,343 would not count this number, but would start here and goes to 18,595. So not counting here, but here, right? And I can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that's there. Ooh, all right, so something not good is happening here, right? I'm counting wrong. So let's see. Let's figure out what's going wrong with this and how we can fix it. Okay, I see what's happening. So notice in this definition here, notice how it slid down. We didn't make these dollar signs, right? So this is going A1 to A25. This is going A2 to A26. So let's fix that. So this is A, and then $1, and then $A, and $26. All right. And there's our 8. Okay. All right. Now this one, I think we have the same issue. Yep. Look. See how it slid? Of course, slid down. So let me double click, and let me drag back up there and fix that momentarily. And we'll just make sure. And notice this one needs to be fixed too, right? Let's make sure this time we fix it. And then next time we will make sure. So let's double check here. So 18,596. So let's see. I wouldn't count this one, but this one I would. And then 22,848 would come to here. So what do I have there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there's 7 that we have. And then 22,849 would count here to 27,101, and there's those 2, and oh, I'm glad this happened. So look at what's happening. We're leaving out our last data value here. We did not count this data value. We're just shy of it. So how should we fix that? Well, here's probably the easiest way to fix that. What we want to do, and back in when you learned about frequency distributions, what they talked about was when finding the class width, we always round up. So let me just show you something here. Let's format that cell as a number. And notice how that's an even value of 0.00. So there's no rounding at all whatsoever. But what we want this to do is round up. So here is what I'm going to do to fix that. I am going to do the round up feature. And what it should do is round up that number. Actually, this will be a good example, because what's going to happen is it isn't going to round up at all. Right? The reason it's not going to round up is because there's 0.00. So there's no way for it to round up 0.00. Right? So even if I were to use round up, that's not going to work. All right, so here's a fix to that. We're going to use what's called the ceiling function. Okay, and the ceiling function will shove that number up to the next value. All right, let me show you that. All right, so let me show you the ceiling function. And you know what, actually, that I think about this isn't going to work either, because if I choose ceiling precise, here's what happens is, let me put parentheses around there. It's still not going to round up because it was a flat, even whole number. All right, so normally this would work. Normally if I had 4253.1, this would round up to 4254, and then we would be good. These would all automatically adjust themselves, and we would be done. But this isn't going to work because we have 0.00. So here's what I'm going to do instead. All right, I'm going to do this the good old-fashioned way, and I am just going to add 1 to bump that number up. Now, when I hit enter, watch what's going to happen. All of this will change dynamically. So all of these bumped up 1 and these as well, and then now we have counted all of them. All right, so remember, if we have 25 data values here, we should have a total of 25. So I'm just going to double check to make sure we've counted all of these, and I can see I have 27. Uh-oh, what are we doing wrong now? Aha! Alright, here's what we're doing wrong. So right here in this class should be a 0. Alright, we didn't subtract. Look at the formula. We didn't subtract like we were supposed to. Okay? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to copy and paste into that cell, and it's not liking the reference. Okay, so I want this frequency to be here, and I want it to look at this cell that it's going to subtract out. There we go. That works. All right. So here we're taking the frequency, right? Remember, we're taking the frequency from A1 to A25, and the upper limit is H4. That's this guy right here. So it's counting all the values from 0 up to this number, and how many there are, and then I want to subtract out all the numbers up to here. So now that works. There we go. Alright, so to build a frequency distribution with formulas where we could dynamically change one number, right? So when this data changes, then the min automatically changes, the max automatically changes, the width automatically changes, and all of this information automatically changes. So for example, check this out. I'm going to come back to my data set, and here's my out-of-state tuition. So let me copy and come over here, and I'm going to paste my out-of-state tuition. And all of this, because it's formula-based, should dynamically change for me. Boom, there we go. Everything automatically changes. So now here's my min value. Here's my max value. I still have my number of classes that we defined. Here's the new class width. All right, now, so let's see if we can address this class width issue here in a sec. So here's my lower limit, looking at the min, and then I've added the width, right? And then here's my upper limit. I subtracted 1 from this guy here, and then added the width to all of those. And then here's my frequencies, right? And here's my total frequency. Let me bold that just so I can see the distinction there. All right. All right. Now let's see. Let's do this one last thing. Let's look at this class width. So I wonder if I format this cell. That is a number with 2 decimal places. Oh, look at that. It's flat even as well. Oh, man. All right. I think on the next set of data, we'd probably be able to deal with that so that I could show you the ceiling precise feature. All right. Good afternoon, or morning, or evening, whenever you're watching this. I just want to show you a couple basics of some descriptive statistics. So here's a list of numbers that I have here. This is actually my in-state tuition, and I want to find say the mean and median and mode, so on and so forth. So let's over here and say I want to find the mean, and underneath I'm going to put the mean. So I'm going to hit the equal sign, and I'm going to start typing average. I'm going to see here's average arithmetic mean of numbers. So I'm going to double click average, or just type the whole word, and then I can either click the first cell and then come down and shift click the second cell to highlight all of them, right? And that'll give me my average. Let's say I want to find the median. So in this cell I'm going to type the equal sign, and I'm going to start typing median and double click there. And then another way to select this set of data is to click and hold. I'm holding the left mouse button and I'm dragging down, and then I'm letting go of the left mouse button and selecting that group of data, and there's the median. Now let's suppose I want to find the standard deviation, and so here I'm going to start typing standard deviation. Here we go. So standard deviation of a population or standard deviation of a sample. I'm going to go ahead and choose the standard deviation of a sample, and then again click and drag, and there is my sample standard deviation. You can do some basic formatting where I could kind of highlight all of these cells and I can center them if I want. Makes it look a little prettier. I could even highlight these cells, and I'm going to right click. Right? I like to right click everything, Let's see what's possible, and I'm going to format the cells here. So what I'm going to do when I choose to format is just to give it some kind of standard rounding. Okay, so I can choose to just have it do what it does normally and call it general, or I could do number. I could change to currency and it'll put a $sign there for me. I could change it to a date and it'll format it as a date. I could do a percentage, a fraction. I can even customize how I want. So my mean in this example, for my mean, since all of my dollar values, all of my data is dollar values, the book recommends going to 1 decimal place beyond that. So I've gone to 2 decimal places. So I'm going to format that cell, and for my number, I'm going to go to 1 decimal place. All right, and then there's my median, and then the standard deviation. I'm going to format, and let's make it 2. Okay? Alright, there we go. So we can do some pretty basic arithmetic here with mean, median, standard deviation by using the built-in features that are in Excel. In fact, just to show you a couple other things, I could, if I wanted to, I could find the min. So I can type equals and then start typing minimum, and there's the min. So I choose min and I select all that data and hit enter, and it finds the minimum value for me. And I could also do maximum as well. Let me type equals max, and it'll find the maximum value there for me as well. Okay, and then let's say any other type of information I might want to find. I typically can use the equal sign, and then just to show you up here, I believe it's under the Insert tab, and I can call out the function builder. No, it's not there. I use Excel on a Mac, and it is located in a different feature. I think maybe it's under Insert. No, that's just Insert Cells. Here it is. So there's a Formulas tab. So I could go to the Formulas tab and insert a function. They have them organized for me based on category. Right? So you could come up here and just explore and play around with the different formulas they have built in. And if, as I illustrated for you, if you know the name of the feature, once you type equals and start typing, it'll start to fill in and say I want to pick some, so on and so forth. All right, those are some basics in Excel.